Stop scrolling for a second. If you cannot sit alone for 10 minutes without reaching for your phone, are you truly free? Imagine tonight, no messages, no noise, just you and your thoughts, and suddenly the silence feels loud. Why does being alone feel unsafe if you claim you're strong? Buddhism reveals a truth most people miss. It is not loneliness that hurts, it is dependency. Attachment is the root of suffering. You don't need proof. Just look at your life and how often your peace depends on someone else's response. What if the discomfort you avoid is the doorway to unshakable power? Watch closely. By the end, you will know how to find peace alone completely. Your doorway to calm, clarity, and timeless Buddhist insight. And stay until the end. There's a powerful bonus lesson most people are not ready to hear. Stop calling loneliness a problem. Why do you call loneliness a problem? Sit with that question before you answer it. You were taught that being alone means something is missing, that silence means rejection, that if no one stands beside you, something must be wrong. But look carefully. Is the pain truly in being alone, or in the story you keep repeating about it? Whatever you resist owns you. And perhaps what you resist is not loneliness, but meeting yourself without distraction. Loneliness is not the wound. It is the doorway you hesitate to open. Imagine it as a dark room inside your own house. You pass by it daily. You keep yourself busy. Noise, conversations, notifications, endless tasks, anything to avoid entering. Yet the room waits, not to harm you, only to be acknowledged. When you finally light a candle and step inside, you realize something quiet and humbling. It was never a monster. It was unused space, untouched awareness, a place where your neglected thoughts have been sitting patiently. Suffering begins the moment you label silence as failure. In the wisdom of the awakened ones, attachment, not love, creates unrest. The constant leaning, the hidden expectation that someone else must calm your storms. But each time you depend on another to steady your emotions, you surrender your inner authority, you give them access to your peace. And when they change, as all things inevitably do, your stability collapses. Dependency is a silent agreement to suffer whenever someone shifts. So, stop calling loneliness a problem. Call it training. Call it sacred preparation. Close your eyes for a moment. See your loneliness as a room. Stand before its door. Feel the discomfort rising. Now, open it slowly. Step inside. What greets you first? Sadness, restlessness, fear. Do not escape. Stay. Breathe gently. Observe without judgment. What emotion have you been avoiding through distraction? Who would you become if silence no longer threatened you? Here lies the turning point most people never reach. They believe peace arrives after companionship, but the deeper truth is this: companionship becomes healthy only after you are peaceful alone. When you can sit without reaching for your phone, without replaying conversations, without craving reassurance, something profound shifts. The mind softens, the heart steadies, and you discover a strength that does not beg to be seen. This is the shift that transforms everything. Loneliness is unfamiliar, not unbearable. The day you sit peacefully with yourself and the world loosens its grip on your emotions. So discipline your mind gently. Spend time each day in deliberate solitude. No performance, no escape, just breath and honest awareness. Build a strong, calm, steady inner foundation. And remember this deeply: when you no longer need anyone to steady your heart, your presence becomes unshakable. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, "I am peaceful alone." Why does not being chosen feel like a rejection of your worth? Sit quietly with that discomfort. Notice how quickly the mind creates a story. They didn't choose me, therefore I am not enough. But is that truth or imagination? We suffer more from imagination than reality. The event is simple. Someone chose differently. The suffering is layered. You turned it into a verdict about your value. Since childhood, the ego has been trained to crave selection, like a child standing in a field, waiting to be picked for a team. That subtle fear, what if I am the last one, never fully left? It simply changed forms. Now it appears in relationships, in career opportunities, in friendships, in social approval. You wait to be chosen to feel confirmed. You wait to be validated to feel secure. And in that waiting, your peace becomes fragile. Look closely at this addiction. Yes, addiction. The need to be chosen is not love. It is dependency disguised as desire. Each time you measure your worth by who stays, who texts, who invites, who approves, you place your self-respect in someone else's hands. And hands are unstable. People change. Moods shift. Preferences evolve. If your peace depends on their attention, your peace will always tremble. In Buddhist wisdom, clinging is the root of unrest. The ego clings to recognition. It whispers, if they choose you, you matter. But your value does not rise when someone selects you. It does not fall when they don't. A mountain does not beg hikers to climb it. It stands complete, whether admired or ignored. Now pause. Visualize yourself as that mountain. Feel your feet grounded. Feel the weight of your own presence. Notice how stillness feels stronger than approval. When the wind passes, the mountain does not chase it. When clouds gather, it does not panic. It remains. Can you remain? Ask yourself honestly, do you measure your worth by who stays? How much of your calm depends on someone else's attention? If the message is stopped, if the invitations paused, if the praise disappeared, would you collapse or would you remain steady? Here is the turning point most never see. When you stop waiting to be chosen, you begin choosing yourself. And this changes everything. You stop performing. You stop shrinking. You stop negotiating your boundaries for acceptance. You act from alignment, not desperation. Detachment does not mean isolation. It means freedom from emotional bargaining. It means you can love without begging, offer without clinging, care without losing yourself. So, train your mind. Each day, notice when you seek validation. Gently withdraw that need. Return to your breath. Return to your ground. Build a disciplined inner foundation where your worth is self-recognized, not externally awarded. Remember this deeply. When you no longer wait to be chosen, you become unshakably complete. Understand that needing people creates fear. Why does attachment feel sweet in the beginning, but heavy with time? At first, it feels like warmth, like safety, like finally arriving somewhere you can rest. But slowly, almost invisibly, a new voice appears inside you. It whispers, "Don't leave me." And the moment that whisper is born, fear follows closely behind. What if they do? This is how dependency breeds anxiety. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly. You begin checking your phone more often, reading into tone changes, overthinking pauses in conversation. The mind starts predicting loss before loss has even happened. What once felt like love now carries tension, because when you need someone to feel whole, your stability is no longer yours. It is borrowed, and anything borrowed can be taken away. In Buddhist understanding, craving is the seed of suffering. The more tightly you cling, the more fragile you become. Needing someone is not the same as loving them. Need says, "Without you, I fall apart." Love says, "I stand fully and I choose to walk beside you." One creates fear, the other creates freedom. Imagine holding water in your hand. Close your fist tightly around it. Feel the tension in your muscles. The harder you squeeze, the faster it slips through your fingers. This is how attachment behaves. The tighter you hold a person, emotionally, mentally, the more unstable the connection becomes. Now, slowly open your hand. Notice the relief in your palm. Notice how openness requires less effort than control. Close your fist right now. Feel that contraction in your body. That is what neediness feels like inside your nervous system. Now, open your hand gently. Feel the release. That is what non-attachment feels like. Not coldness, not distance, but relaxed strength. Ask yourself honestly, where has neediness created fear in your life? In relationships, in friendships, even in your career? Do you love freely or fearfully? If someone delayed a reply, does your peace collapse? If someone chooses differently, does your self-worth shake? Here is the deeper turning point, where fear is not about losing them. It is about losing the identity you built around them. When you understand this, something shifts. You stop gripping. You start grounding. You build a center that does not depend on external reassurance. Connection without attachment is possible. It looks like this. You care deeply, but you do not cling. You enjoy presence, but you do not panic at absence. You love, but you do not beg for permanence. Train your mind daily. Notice when fear arises from need. Instead of tightening, breathe. Instead of grasping, soften. Build a disciplined inner world where your peace is self-sustained. And remember this truth: the moment you stop needing others to complete you, your love becomes fearless and your heart becomes free. Train your mind to sit in silence without breaking. Why does your mind panic the moment everything becomes quiet? Notice it carefully. The room is still, yet inside you there is movement. Thoughts rush in, old conversations replay, regrets surface, imagined futures begin to speak loudly, and suddenly you feel the urge to reach for something. Your phone, music, a task, a distraction. Silence feels unbearable. But why? Because silence exposes what noise has been hiding. Restlessness is not weakness, it is detox. When you stop feeding the mind constant stimulation, it begins releasing what it has been storing: unprocessed emotions, buried fears, unfinished grief. Silence is not attacking you, it is revealing you. The mind untamed is your prison. The mind trained is your refuge. If you cannot sit alone without breaking into distraction, your mind is not under your leadership. It reacts to every impulse. It obeys every craving. It escapes at the first sign of discomfort. And a mind that constantly escapes can never know peace. Think of silence as a mirror lake. When you first look into it, you see only ripples, distortions, movement. You assume the lake is unclear. But if you wait, if you stop throwing stones, if you allow the surface to settle, clarity appears naturally. The lake was never the problem, the disturbance was. Today, sit still for 2 minutes. No movement, no adjusting your posture, no checking time. Take a deep breath, as if you were watching waves touch the shore. Inhale, exhale. Feel the subtle rise and fall. The mind will protest. It will say, "This is boring, this is uncomfortable, this is pointless." Observe that voice without obeying it. This is mental endurance. Ask yourself honestly, can you sit without reaching for distraction? What thoughts arise when the noise fades? Are you willing to see them without judgment, or do you immediately try to escape? Here is the turning point. Peace is not found in controlling the world around you. It is found in mastering the world within you. When you train your mind like a warrior trains his body, patiently, consistently, without drama, you build resilience. You stop being controlled by impulses. You stop being dragged by moods. You become steady. Silence will first feel like confrontation. Then it will feel like cleansing. And eventually it will feel like home. Discipline yourself gently. Increase those 2 minutes to 5. Then 10. Build the strength to remain present with your own mind. Not fighting it, not indulging it, just witnessing it. And remember this truth: the one who can sit calmly with their own thoughts cannot be shaken by the noise of the world. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, "I am peaceful alone." 5. Stop searching for love outside you. Why do you search for someone to complete you? Pause with that question. From a young age, you were taught that happiness arrives from outside, through approval, romance, praise, partnership. You were shown stories where someone appears and suddenly everything feels meaningful. So you began to believe that peace is something to be found. But peace is not found. It is uncovered. And what you keep searching for in others has been quietly waiting within you. Notice how the mind says, "When I find the right person, I will finally feel whole." But this belief carries a hidden wound. It assumes you are incomplete now, and when you approach love from incompleteness, you do not seek connection, you seek rescue. That is too heavy for any human to carry. No one can permanently hold together a self that refuses to stand on its own. You cannot receive what you refuse to give yourself. If you do not offer yourself kindness, you will beg for it. If you do not validate your own worth, you will chase someone else's validation. If you do not sit with your own heart gently, you will demand that someone else soothe it constantly. This is not love. This is hunger disguised as love. Imagine being a well in the desert, desperately searching for water. You travel endlessly, asking the horizon to quench your thirst. But you are already a well. The water is within you. It may be covered by sand, by doubt, by old rejection, by self-criticism, but it is there. The journey is not about finding water. It is about clearing what blocks it. Place your hand on your chest for a moment. Feel your heartbeat. Steady, faithful. It has been with you through every disappointment, every loneliness, every fear. Whisper silently, "I am already enough." Not as arrogance, not as denial, but as recognition. Ask yourself honestly, what are you expecting others to provide for you? Safety? Constant reassurance? Identity? Do you offer yourself the same love you demand from them? If they withdrew tomorrow, would you still know your worth? Here is the deeper turning point. When you become your own shelter, love transforms. You no longer approach relationships from emptiness. You approach them from abundance. You share, not cling. You appreciate, not depend. You connect, not collapse. Train yourself daily to sit with your own emotions. Speak to yourself with respect. Create routines that nourish your mind and body. Build a disciplined inner world where your peace does not wait for someone's arrival. And remember this truth: the moment you stop searching for love outside, you discover you have been carrying it within you all along. 6. Let people leave without losing yourself. Why does someone's departure feel like your identity is collapsing? Sit with that carefully. When a person walks away, the pain is not only about their absence. It is about the part of you that was built around them. Your routines included them. Your future plans included them. Even your sense of self quietly leaned on their presence. And when they leave, it feels as if something inside you has been torn out. But look deeper. The suffering is not only in their leaving, it is in how tightly you intertwined your roots with theirs. Two trees can grow side by side, share sunlight, feel the same wind, yet their roots remain separate. They do not steal stability from each other. They stand grounded in their own soil. When one tree is cut down or transplanted, the other does not collapse. It grieves, yes, but it remains upright. Somewhere along the way, you may have confused attachment with identity. You began to define yourself through the relationship. I am the one they love. I am the one they need. I am the one they stay for. And when that story changes, you feel erased. But you were never meant to disappear inside someone else's life. Letting go is not loss, it is alignment. Not everyone is meant to walk beside you forever. Some come to teach, some come to awaken you, some come to show you where you are still fragile. When they leave, it does not mean you are unworthy. It does not mean your paths no longer align, and alignment is deeper than attachment. Close your eyes and imagine yourself as a tree with deep roots. Feel those roots pressing firmly into the ground. See people walking past you. Some stay in your shade for years. Some pause briefly. Some leave without explanation. Yet your roots remain steady. Your identity remains intact. Your growth continues. Ask yourself honestly, have you ever confused attachment with identity? Who are you without them? Without the role you played in their life? Can you bless someone's departure without shrinking yourself to make them stay? Here is the turning point few accept. When someone leaves, it is an invitation to return to yourself. To strengthen your roots, to rebuild your center without external scaffolding. Grief may visit you. Let it. But do not abandon yourself in the process. Train your mind to stay rooted when others go. Remind yourself daily of who you are, independent of roles and relationships. Build a disciplined inner foundation that does not crack when circumstances change. And remember this deeply. When your roots are strong, no departure can uproot you. 7. Transform solitude into strategy. What if being alone is not your weakness, but your advantage? Sit with that reversal. While others fear empty rooms, you could learn to use them. While others chase constant noise, you could sharpen your edge in silence. The world calls solitude loneliness, but wisdom calls it preparation. When you are not distracted by opinions, comparisons, or endless conversations, your mind becomes clear. You begin to hear your own thoughts without interference. You notice your habits, your weaknesses, your hidden strengths. Growth has always required isolation. Seeds break open underground. Muscles strengthen through unseen repetition. Transformation rarely happens in applause, it happens in quiet discipline. Diamonds are formed under pressure, hidden in darkness. They do not complain about the weight above them, they endure it. In the same way, solitude applies a certain pressure to your mind. It forces you to confront boredom. It exposes your dependency on stimulation. It reveals how easily you reach for distraction. This discomfort is not punishment, it is refinement. Picture yourself alone in a quiet room. No one watching, no one praising, no one correcting. What do you do with that space? Do you waste it scrolling through other people's lives, or do you build something within your own? This is where solitude becomes strategy. It becomes training. Ask yourself honestly, how can solitude improve your discipline? What skill could you build in silence? Reading deeply, strengthening your body, learning a craft, mastering your emotions, reflecting on your patterns. When you stop seeking validation, you gain hours of undisturbed focus. And focus is power. Here is the turning point. When you no longer fear being alone, you stop performing for the crowd. You begin designing your life intentionally. You make decisions without needing approval. You work on yourself without announcing it. Your confidence becomes internal, not displayed. Many people waste their alone time trying to escape it. They fill every quiet moment with noise because stillness feels confronting. But you can choose differently. You can treat solitude like a sacred workshop, a place where your mind is trained, your emotions are regulated, your goals are clarified. Discipline yourself to use your isolation wisely. Create structure. Set small daily commitments. Sit in silence. Study. Improve. Let the world seek validation while you cultivate mastery. And remember this deeply. The one who learns to grow in silence will one day stand in strength without needing applause. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, Just type, "I am peaceful, alone." 8. Make happiness a daily discipline. Why are you waiting to feel happy? Waiting for a message, a promotion, a relationship, a perfect moment. Notice how the mind postpones peace. I will relax when this works out. I will smile when they respond. I will feel stable when life settles. But life does not settle. It moves. If your happiness depends on conditions, it will always be delayed. Happiness is not a mood that visits you randomly. It is a trained perspective, a disciplined return to balance. In Buddhist understanding, the mind becomes what it repeatedly practices. Repetition shapes identity. If you rehearse worry daily, you become anxious. If you rehearse gratitude daily, you become grounded. The mind follows the path you walk most often. Think of your mind as a garden. When you neglect it, weeds grow naturally. Comparison, jealousy, fear, self-doubt. They require no effort, but calmness requires cultivation. If you water awareness, plant gratitude, and remove negative patterns consistently, the garden transforms. Without daily care, however, the weeds quietly return. Each morning, before touching your phone, pause, sit upright, take a slow breath in and out. Name 3 things you are grateful for, not dramatic things, simple ones. Your breath, a new day, the strength to try again. This small ritual begins training your nervous system towards stability instead of reaction. You are teaching your mind where to focus. Ask yourself honestly, what daily ritual strengthens your peace? Do you have one? Or do you leave your emotional state to chance? Are you training joy intentionally or hoping it appears on its own? What would change if calmness became your habit instead of stress? Here is the deeper turning point. When happiness becomes discipline, it stops being fragile. You no longer depend on people behaving perfectly. You no longer collapse when plans shift. You still feel emotions, disappointment, sadness, frustration, but they do not dominate you. You return to center faster. You recover with awareness instead of panic. Inner stability is built quietly. Through repetition, through conscious breathing, through consistent reflection, through choosing your response instead of reacting impulsively. This is strength, not loud, not dramatic, but steady. Train yourself daily. Guard the first moments of your morning. Protect small pockets of silence. Replace one negative thought with a balanced one. Repeat again and again. And remember this deeply. The person who practices calm every day does not chase happiness. They become its source. Witness your mind, don't marry it. Why do your thoughts control you so easily? Look closely. It is not because they are powerful, it is because you believe them. A thought appears. I am alone. I am not enough. I will always be abandoned. And instead of observing it, you marry it. You give it your name. You say, this is me. But a thought is only a mental event. It rises. It lingers. It fades. The suffering begins when you cling to it as identity. When you stop witnessing and start identifying. In Buddhist understanding, freedom begins the moment you realize you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness noticing them. Imagine the sky on a cloudy day. Dark clouds pass through, some heavy, some light. Rewritten script, some carry storms. Yet the sky itself is never harmed. It does not chase clouds. It does not beg them to stay. It does not panic when they gather. Thoughts are clouds. You are the sky. Close your eyes for a moment. See each thought passing by like a cloud. One says, you are behind in life. Let it pass. Another says, they should have stayed. Let it pass. Another whispers, you will always be alone. Do not fight it. Do not study it. Just watch it move through your awareness. Notice something powerful. The watcher stays unchanged. Ask yourself honestly, Which thought patterns create your loneliness? Is it the constant comparison, the replaying of old rejection, the prediction of future abandonment? Can you observe sadness without becoming it? Can you say, sadness is here, instead of, I am broken? Here lies a deep turning point. When you witness your mind instead of marrying it, space appears. And in that space, choice is born. You can choose not to follow every fearful story. You can choose not to obey every anxious prediction. The mind may still create noise, but you are no longer pulled by it. This is inner independence, not the absence of thoughts, but the mastery of your relationship with them. You stop arguing with every cloud. You stop building homes inside passing storms. You stay grounded in awareness. Train this every day. Sit quietly. Watch your mental patterns without judgment. Label them gently, thinking, remembering. Then return to your breath, again and again. This repetition builds strength. It builds calm. It builds distance from needless suffering. And remember this deeply. The moment you stop believing every thought, you reclaim the sky of your own mind. 10. Choose connection. Don't crave it. What changes when you no longer need anyone? Sit with that quietly, not as rebellion, not as separation, but as inner stability. When you no longer depend on someone to complete you, something subtle yet powerful changes inside. The desperation softens. The urgency fades. You begin to choose people, not cling to them. Most suffering in relationships does not come from love. It comes from craving. Craving says, stay so I can feel safe. Craving says, approve of me so I can feel worthy. Craving says, do not change because I built my stability on you. And when the other person acts freely, as all humans do, fear appears, anxiety grows. Control follows, but when you are whole within yourself, connection becomes lighter. A full cup shares water easily. An empty one begs to be filled. If you approach relationships empty, every small disappointment feels like hunger. Every delay feels like rejection. Every disagreement feels like collapse. But when your cup is already full, with self-respect, discipline, and inner calm, you offer connection freely. You do not beg for it. Close your eyes and imagine offering companionship from abundance. You enjoy their presence, but you do not panic in their absence. You appreciate their affection, but you do not depend on it for your identity. You listen, you share, you laugh, yet your center remains steady. Notice how different that feels in your body. Less tense, less afraid, more steady. Ask yourself honestly, do you approach relationships from fullness or from fear? When someone pulls away, do you chase or do you stay grounded? How does independence change attraction? When you are not desperate to be chosen, your energy becomes calm, stable, and quietly attractive. Here is the deeper shift. Love from wholeness is peaceful. It is not dramatic. It is not obsessive. It does not swallow your identity. It adds to it. You choose people because you value them, not because you cannot live without them. And that difference changes everything. This does not mean you become cold or distant. It means you become rooted. You still care deeply. You still connect. But you do not sacrifice your mental stability just to keep closeness. You no longer fear being alone, so you no longer accept what disturbs your peace. Train yourself to build inner fullness daily. Strengthen your mind. Protect your calm. Develop your purpose. Let connection be a choice, not a survival strategy. And remember this deeply. When your heart is whole by itself, love becomes a gift you offer, not a lifeline you desperately hold. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, I am peaceful, alone, 11. Realize you were never incomplete. What if the whole search was unnecessary? Pause with that. All the chasing, all the proving, all the quiet fear that you are somehow missing a piece. What if it was built on a misunderstanding? Before labels were given to you, before relationships defined you, before expectations rested on your shoulders, you existed. Breathing, aware, whole. Somewhere along the way, you were taught to measure yourself. Grades, achievements, popularity, approval. You began collecting proof to confirm your worth. And when approval disappeared, you felt incomplete. But that feeling was learned. It was not original. You were never broken, only distracted. Distracted by comparison, distracted by rejection, distracted by the belief that love must be earned. Think of the moon. On some nights, it appears as a thin crescent. On others, it disappears behind shadow. Yet the moon itself is never reduced. Its fullness remains, even when unseen. In the same way, your wholeness does not shrink when someone leaves. It does not disappear when you fail. It does not weaken when you sit alone. Only parts of you become temporarily hidden by clouds of thought and emotion. Close your eyes and imagine yourself as light behind passing clouds. See the clouds moving: doubt, fear, loneliness, regret. They shift and change. Some are heavy, some light, but behind them, your light remains steady, untouched. Notice how peaceful that realization feels. Ask yourself honestly, when did you first believe you were not enough? Was it a moment of rejection, a comparison, a harsh word? What if that belief was never truth, only interpretation? And what would your life look like if you released that interpretation today? Here is the deeper turning point. Peace alone does not come from building something new inside you. It comes from remembering what was always there. You do not need to become complete. You need to stop arguing with your completeness. When you sit alone and feel restless, it is often because you are still searching for confirmation outside. But if you sit long enough, breathe deeply enough, and observe patiently enough, you begin to sense something steady beneath the noise. A quiet presence that does not ask for validation. That presence is you. Train your mind to return there daily. Remove the unnecessary labels. Release the comparisons. Take your worth back from external hands. Build a disciplined awareness that recognizes your natural stability. And remember this deeply: you were never incomplete. The moment you stop searching for missing pieces, you rediscover the wholeness that has always been yours. Bonus: the power of sitting alone without fear. So what happens when you finally sit alone without trembling? Not distracted, not waiting for a message, not filling the silence with noise. Just you and your own presence. At first, there is discomfort. The body feels restless. The mind looks for escape. But if you remain, something unexpected begins to unfold. Fear loses its strength. Dependency loosens its grip. And slowly, your energy returns to you. For years, you may have been spreading your energy outward, seeking attention, approval, and reassurance. Watching who stays, worrying about who leaves, changing yourself to be chosen. But when you sit alone without fear, that outward pull becomes weaker. You stop begging for validation. You stop chasing confirmation. You begin to feel enough in your own company. Calm. Not because life has become silent, but because you have. There is a deep strength in this stillness, the kind that does not need to announce itself. When you no longer panic in solitude, you stop accepting what disturbs your peace. You choose relationships freely. You speak without desperation. You walk away without falling apart. This is inner freedom, not isolation, but self-mastery. A candle does not search for light, it becomes it. In the same way, when you stop searching outside for stability, you begin creating it within. You become a steady presence in every room. Not loud, not demanding, just grounded. Others may still change, circumstances may still shift, but you remain centered. Tonight, Sit in silence for 5 minutes. No phone, no music, no mental rehearsing, just breath. Inhale slowly, exhale gently. Feel the rise and fall of your chest. Notice every urge to escape. Do not follow it. Stay. Let the waves of discomfort move through you without resistance. Ask yourself honestly, can you meet yourself without distraction? What power might be waiting in your silence? What clarity might appear if you stopped running? Here is the final turning point. The peace you have been seeking from others is simply your own mind, trained and reclaimed. When you can sit alone without trembling, you are no longer controlled by loneliness. You are no longer ruled by fear of abandonment. You are no longer bargaining for love. This is mastery. Build it daily, strengthen it patiently, protect it fiercely. Train your mind to remain steady.